Thank you, gentlemen. So I like to read a little intro,
Dude.
and so you'll have to tell me after how accurate I am in the my research of the George Armstrong, because I always do this and I don't tell the guest until like the moment. So
Okay.
you have to tell me if there's anything wrong. Just be like, "Fucking idiot, you're wrong." But yeah, we'll get into it.
Let's go.
Okay. Today, I'm joined by George Armstrong, founder of Physique Academy and a leader in the fitness industry. Known for his intense workouts and no-nonsense attitude, George pushes himself and those around him to stay accountable to their highest potential. His journey began in his dad's garage in Bolton, UK, after being told at 14 that he was too weak to play Premier League soccer. From those humble beginnings, he's built one of the most successful coaching programs in the UK and arguably the world, focused on both physical transformation and mental health. After the tragic loss of his younger brother to suicide, George made it his mission to integrate therapy and mental health awareness into his coaching, helping men face their fears and discover purpose. Today, we'll explore his philosophies on resilience, doing the work, and leading with strength and compassion. George's story is one of overcoming challenges and inspiring others to do the same, and I'm thrilled to have him here. Without further ado, Mr. George Armstrong.
Sick. Thank you. Good introduction.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. And I saw you make a quote on one of the recent videos that you did, and I really, really liked it. So maybe we start there. But
Yeah.
you said fitness is the gateway drug to success.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more about this.
I just think essentially like there's key components of living a healthy lifestyle, the fitness lifestyle, that helps entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, business professionals, whoever essentially, just lock in, stay focused, and not be distracted, not be tempted by negative vices, drugs, alcohol, porn. If you have the outlet as fitness, it keeps you grounded, centered, and aligned, and moving forward at a very fast pace without any distractions or bullshit, essentially, holding you back. So when I say fitness is a gateway drug to success, I mean the habits that allow you to propel you forward at light speed that other people in society don't have, which allows you to win and succeed a hell of a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because when I think of prioritizing fitness, is as soon as you start doing that, you realize how many excuses you put into play. So the way how you and I first started talking was I followed you, and then I got a DM from you, and it was it was always the question asking and of hey, what are your fitness goals? How are you prioritizing this? And it was great because it was always asking essentially why is it that you're not prioritizing this? And then once you put fitness at the top, you kind of rid yourself of all this BS excuse, and then that carries over into other components of life. And one thing I think is interesting that I understood about you is that it sounded like you started off as a physical trainer when you were a bit shy.
Oh yeah.
And so how was that starting on the gym floor, going from this shy kid into the George Armstrong today?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was always shy.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable, and I was always at the back of the class. I was in the last sets, so I wasn't very academically smart, should we say, in school. So I struggled, and that's why I like to come on podcasts as well, because speaking, communicating is everything that you need, especially as a coach, to articulate yourself well and to get across your message is very important. So working on my weaknesses from a younger age has now become a strength, where I would say I'm a good communicator, and that's what people know me for. It's just that process of continuing to always work on that craft and develop it, because I think if you don't use it, you lose it. The communication, just like the gym, just like the mindset, if you don't use these skills and continue to work on them, you don't develop. So for me, a big thing that I always do is try and speak and communicate on the camera, and whether it's on socials or a podcast, whatever it is, YouTube, I'm always trying to maintain a level well, not even maintain. I'm always trying to improve and push myself out of my comfort zone. So I always look back and I think, oh, wow, like even in 6 months' time, I should look back at myself and be definitely different, unrecognizable, really. That's the goal. If you continue to always push yourself in 6 months, 12 months' time, those people who are really going for something, they're aiming for something high, you should notice big differences within 6 months. Whether it's the physique, whether it's the hair, whatever it is, their environment, how they speak, how they communicate, what they're doing, they're pushing for growth. And that's what I've always tried to do. So as a younger, shy kid, I just didn't believe in myself because I was put into a box of what I could achieve and my intelligence in terms of in school. So I didn't believe in myself. I thought I was stupid. I thought I was dumb. And that's what people said. People like would say, oh yeah, like they misjudged my personality as someone who is trying out there, doesn't take himself too serious a lot of the time, as stupid. Do you know what I mean? So when you're young, that gets in your head, and I call it the mind prison. It's all about just working through your own demons, and if you can get them on the straight and narrow, then nothing else matters. Someone can say the worst thing possible to you, and for me, I'm just toughened by that through what I've gone through. So anyone can say something negative to me, and it doesn't really affect me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the past, I've heard you on other podcasts talk about breaking down the truths that we have in our head.
Yeah.
That makes me think of essentially when you're a kid, you're told these things and they become truth. But in reality, it's this thing that you latch onto and believe, but it's not real. It's this thing that you break through. And how often do you break through these supposed truths with your clients? Is it like, do they have these false beliefs of themselves of being stupid or being weak or whatever, and you just hammer through it?
Yeah, I've got certain questions that I ask my clients to get to know them more. Mm-hmm. So I was working with one of my coaches yesterday. We walked through a check-in, and an individual essentially ate some brownies with his girlfriend, and one of my coaches just didn't see through the surface. There was more to it than what was going on here. So if you're on a program and your girlfriend's cooking brownies for you, why is she doing that? You're trying to get lean. You're trying to lose weight. You're on this fitness journey. And he didn't see that. I just saw brownies, girlfriend cooking brownies at the weekend. I'm like, hang on a minute. Like, if she supported him or if they communicated well and he expressed that, listen, I'm on this program right now. I'm spending money into it. I want to put all my time, energy, investment into this 6 months. Have you got my back? He might have not even told her he's doing the program. He might have not been communicating well. So there's all these different scenarios going on, but you just can't see it for surface level of what someone is saying. There's a lot deeper things going on than someone just cooking brownies for his girlfriend cooking brownies for him. Yeah. I was like, okay, so maybe she doesn't like him losing weight because he's visually seen probably a stone dropped in the past couple of weeks. That's a big change. So is that going to cause any insecurities for her? Is she into the fitness industry? Is she training? Does she live that sort of lifestyle? So then I'm like, okay. So I'm asking my coach these questions, and then the light bulb's going off. Okay, I see where you're going here. And I was like, what about their relationship? Do they go out every single week and do they have a meal out with wine, drinks, like don't really worry about the calories in food and just they're going out and enjoying themselves? Is that their relationship that they hold on to this part of their life where they go out every single weekend, they have the drinks, the food, and that's what holds them together. That's what built their relationship. So it could be that. So there's so many different scenarios going on here. It's not just about making the brownies to please him. There's a lot else going on. And as a coach, you've got to read between the lines and ask those deeper truths behind it. So I would be like, okay, Chris, I really appreciate you checking in right now. I saw your girlfriend cook you some brownies. Now, just a question is just to make you think a little bit deeper. Why is she making you brownies? Is this something she does on a regular basis, or is this just off chance? Is it a family event? Was there a birthday on? What's happening here? Does she support you on this fitness journey? Does she know you're on this fitness journey? What's the communication like between you? Are you someone who goes out with your girlfriend every single week and you'll have drinks, you'll have 3-course meal? What's your dynamic like? And then from there, they start to open up, and then you start to paint the picture. This is what's really going on. I've had many situations in the past before where, one particularly, I had a client basically come to me and said his girlfriend was saying, you've got to choose George or me.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I
Yeah.
lost my shit. I was like, I'm just trying to make this guy better.
Yeah.
But it was peeling her away so bad. She was being exposed. She was so insecure about him losing. And he was a big guy.
Yeah.
He needed to lose 5+ stone. And he lost a lot of weight. And I asked about what her diet was like. And when I heard what her diet was like, I was like, okay. She's not changing. She doesn't want to change. She doesn't want him to change. She's not enjoying this process. So you do get yourself into some sticky situations, definitely. But I love coaching. This is what I do. It's the bread and butter of why I wake up in the morning. I just love helping people through these things. And as a coach, with my coaches, I only take them on if they're that way inclined in terms of the deeper psyche behind understanding why people do what they do. Because it's not just about, hey bro, I just want to lose weight. I'm like, okay, but why? I'm like, I want to look good on the beach. I'm like, okay, why? And it's like, well, growing up, I was inspired to look like Superman. I'm like, okay, but why? It's like, well, my dad was never kind of in shape. He was always overweight, and he ended up dying when I was 12. And I'm like, okay. So then you start to go in deep, and then you can hold on to that, and you can say, hey, listen, you know why you're doing this. It's a lot deeper than the abs. You want to be healthy. You don't want to die young. So, yeah.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah.
It reminds me. I don't know if you've ever heard of. It's called the Socratic method, but it's like when you teach someone, you don't tell them. You ask them questions. It's like Inception, the movie, where they embody the idea, and you do it by just super targeted questioning, and it's so cool. You shared in Mike Thurston's podcast that your clients are oftentimes closer to you than they are their families, which this makes sense because it feels...
Get chills.
Yeah, it's really...
So true, though.
Yeah. And like, how often do family members, the ones that we love, block us from growing? Not that it's so negative in that component, but there might be people who see you as going into getting this in better shape, and for some reason they feel it as a threat to themselves. Yeah. And then they try and block it, like the girlfriend that you were relating. And so it makes sense why that connection is then built, because it's this person. It's like, whoa, like this person is really holding me accountable, rather than these people who are kind of commiserating with my maybe lower self in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, you noticed how you should coach, I would say.
Yeah.
You don't tell them what to do. You just guide them. You just ask them questions, and they know themselves. The path will light up as they walk and take action. They'll be exposed to the truth. They will see it. It's better for them to find the path themselves than you to tell them it.
Yeah.
It's not how I coach. I'll ask them the deeper questions, and then you can see like
take a minute.
Yeah. Oh shit, bro. I'm like, okay, tell me. And then all of a sudden they might start really opening up, getting upset, and that's where for me it's a gift. It's my obligation to do that, because I know how powerful it is, and I know how good it makes me feel when I've not told someone what to do. I've just guided them. You know what I mean? I've just supported them and asked them some personal questions. Yeah.
Man, it's so wild to hear how you were perceived in school, which is which was the standard system would call you dumb, when in reality,
Yeah.
like, in order to be able to do this, like, you have to drop ego and essentially be like, hey man, like, you are coming to the conclusion, and I'm just a reflection of you, which is, like, that's so hard to get to, because I think the standard for not just the fitness industry, but so many people attach like someone else's success to their ego, and so they're like, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, instead of what you're saying, which is just the reflective guide, like, brother, like, tell me where you're at.
Yeah.
What's the why? What's the why? And so
Yeah.
it's so cool, man. No, it's challenging. And I guess on that same path of growth, how often do you encounter people who are unknowingly self-sabotaging themselves?
Yeah. Yeah, all the time, every
Yeah.
day. Because I've done it myself. I only coach through things that I've experienced myself. If someone asks me a question I don't know, even if it's to do with training, nutrition, I will just say I don't know. Like, it's not my time and place to try and lie to people. Like, because I was in the lower sets, because a lot of the time I didn't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bothered of admitting it that I don't know. Yeah, you have to do that, and I think a lot of people will just try and tell you some bullshit, and you'll know deep down if it's not pure, if it's not aligned.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know themselves. They'll be able to figure it out. But sorry, I lost track there.
No worries. It's more so on the you were still going with it, but
yeah.
it's just people who self-sabotage and then kind of whatever excuse comes up.
You've got to believe you're worthy of more, but also you've got to work for it. I think you will only discover the new level when you break down the limiting beliefs. So I'm saying every 6 months, I will look back and think, I broke down other limiting beliefs here. But you're not going to have the confidence if you don't break down those limiting beliefs. So the self-sabotage, I've done it for years because I didn't believe I was worthy of being happy at one point. I think for many years, because I was always like fighting things and trying to like break through things, whether it was being broke, whether it was in debt, whether it was abusing drugs, whether it was like helping my brother out. My life just felt like it was never going to get better. And I was always like looking around the corner or looking over my shoulder, thinking something bad was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I was always scared that my brother was going to kill himself. And it was this poison of this linger of just, you can never be happy because you're always worried. And if he was not happy, I wouldn't be happy, sorry. So I carried that for most of my life. That was probably one of the biggest things to break through. It was just being happy and being content and waking up and feeling good and not worrying that my business is gonna flop and I'm gonna have to start all over again, or someone's gonna be ill in my family. Like, I had a lot of family members who are not with me now, but my aunt, my grandma and granddads just died when I was young, and my mum went through a few health scares. So the death thing has always been there, of just feeling anxious and worried. So that self-sabotage, I would always just get to a point where I do well one week or I do well on my diet, and then I just be like, I don't feel good. I'm just going to go out and get fucked up and just put myself back to that baseline. I feel like a lot of people do that. They have a baseline and they don't break through it. But I think you start off at your baseline wherever you are, and I think you do the work, but then you don't come back down. You maintain that momentum. And then when you push through a baseline barrier, your thermostat on the wall will increase. And then from there, if you believe in yourself and you believe you've pushed past those limiting beliefs, hopefully the degrees should increase and it should stay there. It's only going to stay there, though, if you continue to do that work and the same habits. And to reach that next level of heat and thermostat, we have to delve a little bit deeper and improve on our habits even more, even more dialed in. So Yeah, it's constant. I think for me, when I feel the most happiest, I'm growing. Yeah, and it's very important for me to grow in one way, shape, or form.
When you were in those stages of the belief that there is something negative looming, what did you do in order to remove that or switch that belief? Did you pause or how did you shift that mindset?
Ooh, I've had a lot of mentors, read a lot of books, but I think for me, it's outworking my self-doubt continuously over and over and over again. And if I cool it off, if I take time off, the confidence will drop. So it's maintaining the consistency of the discipline of working on myself, working on the mindset, working on the body, working on my habits. Because I'm one of those guys, and I think when you get to know me, it's like in the past, if I went out on a night out, like I'm getting fucked up, like that was it. It was all or nothing approach. I was pushing the boundaries of what was possible. If it was because I wasn't in a good place, I wasn't happy with myself. If I was going out clubbing, it wouldn't be one drug. It would be a concoction. It would be coke. It would be ecstasy. It would be ketamine. It would be literally a concoction of different highs that I was chasing, and that's just my personality. I've always been a sort of person where I take things to the limit, and if I didn't control that, I didn't have control many times in my life, it would be detrimental to myself and others around me, but mainly myself. It was self-loathing. I was hurting myself because I wasn't happy within. I wasn't happy with myself, essentially, yeah.
Were you aware of that at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing, and that's why it was a self-sabotage. But it was to the point where it was dangerous. And that's why, like, when I look at someone now, I'm helping a client out, and they're doing it, they're self-sabotaging. I've been there and done it, so I can relate, and I don't really judge anymore, really. Of course, I am gonna. If I see something, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, you think straight away, oh, this is what I perceive, and it's probably not right." But because I've hit the lowest of lows, and I've done things that I'm not proud of myself, when someone tells me something, I'm just like, "Okay, bro, like now it's time to move on. Like, stop judging yourself. Let's pick ourselves back up." And I'll tell them what I've done to myself. I've abused myself before in the past. And I think that's what a coach is. How can you help someone when you've never even been through shit? Like you've not had any experiences in life. Like you've had you don't had a soft life. I'm saying you've not had to go through some trauma, or it's not even trauma. I think the issue I have with a lot of people is people think their breakup, people think their story is the worst story, and really a lot of the time it's average problems. I think it's just people complain, and they're a victim of the most low-level shit. They just do all the time, and I just don't deal with it because I've experienced certain things that you can't. It's not that you can't get worse things can't happen, but I think when you've experienced some really traumatic things, you look at other minute, small situations.
Inconveniences or something.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh God, chill, man. Like, what are you worried about? It's like what happens in my business, and over the past year, people have noticed that I'm more stoic, and I'm not really fazed by certain things that go on. Everything could be going wrong, and I'm more composed, and I'm like, okay, sweet. Like, it's not the end of the world. To other people, it might be the end of the world, but maybe to me, it's okay because I'm healthy, I'm fit, my family are okay, I've got a roof over my head. I'm willing to go and live back at my mum's house. I've broken down my ego, and I've been pushed to that point where everything from now is just a win. Everything's just a bonus of where I've got to right now from the place I was in. Yeah. I'm laughing, man.
Yeah, it's so interesting because that's kind of like the solution, right? Is if you take something so seriously that is a negative event, then it's going to just build in your life. But if you relax through it, then that's what helps the ship sail through calm waters or through rough waters or whatever. But if you over hype your own mind, but it is always challenging in those moments, and it's nice to have someone that kind of smacks you out of it. You were talking about when you've seen folks who go through the same stuff that you've been through, so drugs, partying, or whatever it is. It could be relationships or a person passing. How much of that do you need to just allow that person to go through it versus saying, hey, you should probably, versus stopping it?
No, they've got to feel it.
They've got to go through it's like a rite of passage in some sense.
You've got to let them ride it out.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. Not at all. I think, like, my parents tried to not hide us away. They tried to dumb things down. They tried to protect us in the way of, and I had many disagreements with my parents. At a very young age, I feel like I recognized something I wasn't experiencing in life when I was young. They were trying to protect us from things that we need to go through. So illness, death, pain. They tried to not let us experience it because they felt we weren't ready as a younger boy. And I don't think that's right. They would essentially, and my parents are absolutely amazing, but this is my take on what I'm trying to understand and what I'm going to hopefully do when I have children, is if something does happen, tell them and be honest with them. Don't try and hide it from them and tell them the last minute when you could have experienced it instead of, it could have, for example, if someone's ill and you've got an illness and you've got 6 months to live, don't tell them at the last minute. Don't tell them. And that's kind of, things have happened, and at the time they did what they did, and they've done this a few times to me, but I used to get really upset and angry because things like that would happen where someone was dying and they've got like a week to live, and I'm like, how long have they been ill for? And they're like, oh, they've been ill for like 8 months. And I'm like, sorry, like what? They're trying to protect you, and I just don't think people should be protected. I think you're going to have a fruitful life, and you're going to experience the wonders of the pain, the sadness, the highs, the lows of what a human being should experience in life. If you're going to hide away from that and try and protect them, it's not right. I think we need to experience these highs and lows in order to have a fruitful life, mate. Yeah.
It's a misplaced love.
Yeah.
Like it's out of love, but at the same time is the actual love that you could give to your kids or the people that you're guiding is just you catch them or you hold them essentially when they go into that negative thing. Like, let them get burnt, let them feel that pain, but it's irresponsible, like you're saying, of trying to stop them from that. Have you felt that that's not just a experience that you felt, but kind of a broader society type of thing?
With the men who come on board, because we've worked with thousands of guys, and I have a decent understanding of like where people are at and what they've been through, and some of the guys have been through horrible things, and those types of guys are usually the ones who don't complain. They don't complain, they don't moan, they get on with it, they keep things quiet, and they just carry on moving forward. The people who I kind of have a little bit of a ick with are the individuals who could just complain and moan, and the victims, and I just hate it. So my job now and my path is to just wake people up a little bit more and tell them, listen, like, I get it, you hurt, I get it's hard, but you're going to be okay. You need to learn how to work through these issues, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen in the future that are going to be a hell of a lot worse than what you've gone through right now. I call it the wake-up call. I call people out a lot. That's my job, bro. That's my job.
It's needed, because when you read about traditional cultures like the Maasai, there were rites of passage that, and we'll just talk about, I think it applies for men and women, but in this context, young men, where you used to have, where you, as a Maasai tribesman, you would go off and hunt a lion, and then you would come back, and then it'd be, okay, this is a symbolic moment for when you're now a man or when you're accepted into society, but there's no real rite of passage in the Western world, it feels at this point. So what do you think could be a replacement for going out and pursuing and hunting a lion? Is there something that exists? Is it this moment when you have someone who's essentially gone through this pain to call someone out for, hey, what are you doing? You're being a victim in this
I think
state.
so, yeah. I think we have to do hard things.
Yeah.
Self-conflicted adversity. I think that's in somewhat the only thing that we're going to experience on a daily basis. On a daily basis, that's going to come anywhere close to just getting ready for pain, getting ready for sadness, getting ready for being heartbroken. If you do that, and that's why I say the success is, for me, well, fitness is the key, a gateway drug to success, is because you're training hard, you're doing the ice baths, you're being disciplined with your food, you're building your mindset up, you're pushing yourself through the grueling workouts. And I think, what else could we do that's going to come anywhere close to the types of pain that we're going to suffer with death or illness? I don't know any other things that are going to come close.
Yeah, it's knowingly doing these uncomfortable things that just build your thick skin. And taking ice baths, as popular as they are, they work, man. Like,
they do work.
It's so shitty waking up and taking a cold plunge. It never, like, I don't know for your experience, but I've not once enjoyed the like moment before. Once I've done it and once I'm out, it's like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But like the moment leading up to, you're like, dude, I could go run, or I could go do a gym session over this. At any point, it's just the freezing cold is such a pain, but just pushing through that little moment of like, maybe I don't need to do it is the point.
And like my mum, she's probably one of the strongest people I've ever met mentally, and she's not in the gym. Do you know what I mean? She used to train when she was younger, but the things that she's gone through and the battles and the struggles, she's not doing self-conflicted adversity on a daily basis. So like, I'm just saying that if you do these things, it's going to help you.
Yeah.
It will help you. It's not the be all and end all. It doesn't make you a master and this wise individual at all, but at least you're doing something to help you. You know what I mean? You're building yourself up.
Yeah, you're cutting the bullshit away.
Yeah.
Your personality, as I was learning more and more, reminds me a lot of David Goggins and kind of how he talks about having this inner bitch inside of him, which is this story is essentially, he was this guy who used to eat ice cream on the couch and was like pest control. And that every morning he fights against that guy because he could go back into that state. How much of your daily intensity and attitude towards the world is going against this shy kid that was 14 that was told he couldn't play soccer?
Yeah, I hold on to negative things big time. Yeah.
As motivation.
Yeah, I've always called myself a bitch. Yeah.
Every day.
A lot of the time.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the internal dialogue, and I think my people who have trained with me, people who have worked out with me, see there's an intensity. It's not pleasant. I've got a lot better, but it's a beat down. I'm hurting myself because I'm running away from whoever I was in the past. Like the things that I've gone through and experienced, I still struggle with today. And for me, when I've done the hard workout, I feel a sense of calmness, ease. I'm more relaxed because I still struggle on a daily basis. So I'm cleansing the demons, myself out of the mind prison. If I don't do the workout, so if I'm not disciplined with my food and I start to gain weight, I start to slack off, I'm a very toxic, very hard to be around individual because I'm I'm not happy within myself. I feel like my skin's crawling. I'm like, you're going back there. You're not being the best version of yourself. And that's standards. Of course, I let things slide, but I don't let them snowball out of control anymore when I used to. But I have a negative self-talk, which motivates me.
Yeah.
In a way.
How do you balance the negative self-talk with the positive self-talk? Like when it works essentially when you're needing to motivate, and it's, come on, don't be a bitch or whatever, keep pushing, and then on the outside of that, like, how's the mindset outside of workouts?
Well, it's what I did say. I said negative, but for me, it has a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. So I could, when I used to train people one-to-one, or when I'm in the gym training with someone, but it was more when I was training with someone one-to-one. I know what's going to motivate someone. I know if I call them weak, I say, you're a pussy, you're a bitch. I'm not going to say that to a 50-year-old woman. I'm not going to say that to a certain guy who is really low, and that's not going to inspire him to pull himself out of that deep squat hole. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to understand the individual more by asking the questions and getting to know who he is and the why, and then I'm going to approach it in a way that's going to get the best out of them. But for some individuals, you can say, you're a little bitch. Like, you are a little pussy boy. You're never going to be successful. You're never going to make it. And for me, that's good. And for a lot of people, very highly successful entrepreneurs that I've worked with, that's good for them. But for a lot of people, it's not. There's only certain types of individuals who like that. So you've got to be very careful. So really, when I said negative, it's actually positive because it gets the positive outcome. It's what motivates you. Do you know what I mean? It's your words are the most powerful thing.
They are,
aren't they?
Yeah.
I can get to know. This is the thing with me. I'm the nicest guy ever. I'm so giving. I look after my team. I look after my family. I treat people well. I spoil them. But then on the flip side of that, if I'm in a bad mood, or if someone's hurt me or disrespected me and my family, I can be evil. And that's why I don't like people in my circle, friends, who don't have a dark side, who are not angry. In one way, they're nice guys. I don't like nice guys. Nice guys, and I've come across them so many times, who they act all nicey. Everything's good, bro. Everything's fine when they're with you. But then behind the scenes, they chat shit and they go behind your back. They're a nice guy. The good guys are the ones who just tell you the truth and tell you what's up, tell you what it is. So the individuals who are nice guys, I know them, like, I can see through it so much, and they're just not real. They're fake. And that's the problem with a lot of people these days. They're just so fake. They act like your best friend, and then behind the scenes, they're just the opposite person. So what you see is what you get with me, and a lot of people find it difficult because I will ask those questions, and they're going to get called out. But that's just me. I'm just being authentic. I don't care if you like me or not. I'm just going to be who I am, unapologetically me. So, yeah, with getting back to the negative thing, I think it's what motivates you. So when someone says, what is negative self-talk? The words are negative, but they're actually going to get a very positive outcome. That dark, that pain, that deep-rooted energy that you're pulling up and you're using to motivate you is really getting a positive outcome. Because in times of pain, or when you're doing a grueling workout, or these guys who do crazy distances with runs, for me, it's like, okay, so a lot of the time, if I'm going through something difficult, sometimes my little brother will pop up. It'll just automatically, boom, in my head, and I can't stop it. It's like when I've got to this certain point, you've reached that threshold of intensity and you're burning, you can't breathe anymore. All of a sudden, it's like the deepest, darkest things for me will just pop up. And it's like subconsciously I'll know I've got an artillery, I've got my toolbox of different things I can pull up in times of desperation or in times of, you need to keep going, bro. What can you do here? What's going to keep you going? It's the mindset, isn't it? The body can keep on going. It's the mindset. So subconsciously, my brother will be there, and all these things will just be off going at once. What I've experienced with him, what I could have done, if I said this, if I'd done that, if I went down a different path. So really, it's negative, but it's also going to get a positive result. Yeah.
And outside of your workouts, does it ever spill in to your life? And if it does, do you have another solution other than like hammering through, or how do you solve it when it comes up?
It's my daily habits. The
Yeah.
breath work has been life changing for me.
Yeah.
The breath work is probably the breath work I would say is better than the ice baths. Definitely better than the saunas. The sauna's just, I don't know, sauna's just like a cleanse. You just come out, you're like, wow, like you've been reborn. The ice bath is more for really just focusing and relaxing yourself and bringing yourself down. And when you're in the sauna, your brain's more active, I would say. In the ice bath, everything's calm. You're still. You relax. You ground yourself because you're breathing more deeply, and you can't think about anything else. So these different things I use are going to help me going through different periods of my life, whatever I'm going through. But then the breath work is one where I'll do it and I come out of it and I just feel so aligned. I feel like I'm just connected to myself again and I'm reset. And I think the sauna for me is probably one of the best tools I use. And I try and help my clients with it. I say, have you ever done breath work? And they're like, what do you mean breath work? It took me about a year to get into it. But when I got into it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. It really helps with my heart. It helps relieve stress and anxiety and just clear that shit out. So if I am feeling down, if I am feeling low, my girlfriend will say something and she'll bring something up where maybe I'm being a dick. I'm being a dick. I'm not in a good mood. Something's happened at work and it's bothered me. It's affected me. I broke character. And I take it out on my missus. And she says something and I'm like, shit, you know what? Yeah, I need to go and do breath work. Or I'm anxious. And she's like, go and do your breath work. I'm like, sweet, do it. Everything's good. Come back, apologize. I'm the dickhead. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that or whatever. And then you're like, wait, sweet. Okay, let's go back again. You get on a meeting, you're fine. So it's monitoring and engaging when you need to come away and you need to go and do something what's going to bring you back to reality. Center yourself, ground yourself. Whether it is like just going for a walk, whether it's going to the gym. When you're in the gym, dopamine up, you raise that frequency, you're in a different state of mind, you've come from maybe a negative place to a higher frequency. So then when you've pulled yourself out of that, even though you didn't want to do it, you're in a different state of mind. So now I've learned that instead of not procrastinating about it, instead of self-sabotaging, before I'd be like, fuck breath work. I'm not doing that. Fuck the gym. I'm gonna sit here and feel like shit. Maybe I do want to feel angry. Maybe I do want to be pissed off. Maybe I'm still bothered about all this shit I've gone through, my brother's death. Maybe I want to be angry. Like that, I think a lot of people get addicted to the feeling of being angry and anxious. Like it's sometimes it's an addictive feeling of being like throughout the whole day, instead of being like, why am I getting addicted to this sensation of like anxiety or just overwhelm? And then they have a coffee and then you're even more overwhelmed and you're like, sitting there in your chair, like, what am I doing? So before I used to self-sabotage with hurting myself by just continuing to add things on top of the fire, which would make things worse. I'm more stressed. And then I'd feel it here in me. I'm hurting myself. I'm hurting my heart. I feel like it all comes back to here. And yeah, if I'm stressed, if I'm down, let's use a tool. Let's use a tool. And those are tools. That's why when you asked me before, fitness is the gateway drug to success. If you use a tool, it's not just fitness, but it's wellness, it's recovery. It's going to pull you out of that state faster. And the faster you can get out of a negative state and start breaking character, the faster you can get back on track and start winning again.
What did you need to let go of in order to get to this clarity?
Well, it was only up until recently, really, where I was basically holding on to the fact that I didn't do enough for my little brother. So I was blaming myself. I'm one of those guys where I'll reflect and I think, if I went down that path, he'd probably still here. And I honestly believe that. I honestly believe if things were slightly different and we chose a different path, and I have a lot of resources, you know what I mean? I can fly someone out. I can pay them to live with me. I can put them up in a nice hotel. I think if I changed his environment, I think he'd still be here. And it's dealing with things like that for me, it was haunting me. But it wasn't just that. It was essentially, he looked up to me like a superstar, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it because when you're in the moment, when you don't take a step back 360 or have people tell you, because no one really told me, like, I was like, maybe my mum mentioned it a few times, but all I ever tried to do for probably 10 years was just build him up and just pull him out of that negative space. So there was a big attachment to my happiness and his happiness. When he was down, I was rock bottom. I was depressed. I was fucking angry. I was destructive. So then when he died, I was like, oh, like, I didn't do it. I didn't pull him out of it. And then I blamed myself for probably about a year. I blamed myself, and I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel for my life. That was how bad it was. It was like, when he died, I died. I don't know why I'm here anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just living for the business and just keeping them happy. I'm not living for me. I'm sad. There was a dark, like, sadness around me. And one of my friends at the time lived with me. He said he said there was just this dark energy around me at certain times of the day, usually at night, where he would just see me thinking to myself and just be like, not staring out of the window, but I would just be reflecting and in pain. I was just in pain. So I took some acid, actually. And I've been into my psychedelics for years, and I experimented with all these types of drugs, as you're fully aware. But I took some acid, and then I had a conversation with a friend, and essentially I saw things through a different lens, and he helped me through it. It was like I was like a wizard. I was like going inwards, and I was like searching for the answers. But he basically just asked me a question. Same again. He asked me just a simple question, and he just said, and then he started to say, like, do you know he was like inspired by you and motivated by you? You were his inspiration. And up until then, I didn't really see that, even though my little brother used to watch my YouTube videos with Louis, and he used to, when I went through his YouTube, which was not nice after he died, I went through it and logged in, and I just went through and looked at all the videos he was looking at, and some of it was just disturbing, you know what I mean? Some of the negative stuff you can see online was nasty, but there was one video of me and Louis in Ibiza, and he kept looking at the same time for probably 50 times. It blew my mind. I was like, why do you keep looking at that? And basically, when my friend told me, like, I was his inspiration, it clicked. All started to click. And then from there, all I needed to know and all I needed to feel was he loved me as much as I loved him. And then from there, I could move on. And I was like rested. I could like rest. And that was it. It was all it was pure love. It was knowing that what we went through and the difficulties, all I needed to know was he loved me as much as I loved him, and it was so difficult for him to take his life. But and then from there, it was essentially I was like reborn. I could start living again. Yeah.
It's making me emotional, man.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's that's a heavy thing to have gone through, and it's very cool you had that friend who helped guide you through that. And
he kind of saved me. He kind of saved me, really. Yeah.
How what was your perspective on going into that moment when you took acid? Was it okay, hey, I'm going to try and solve this, or was it like I'm just going to take this drug to distract?
Essentially, when I took acid, I was like, wow, this is the different intelligence. I've took so many different drugs, and this one, I don't know what it was. I just felt like I could be present. It was just pure presence in the moment. And I felt I needed to take it a few times to just, I don't know what I was going to learn. I felt like the pathways in my brain were locking in. And I was clear. I could think, and you hear people like Steve Jobs, other wildly successful people and huge brains out there taking it. But then I think I took it years ago, but I didn't get anything from it. But I think it must have been this stuff I took was pure. And I was just so locked in. I was like, wow, this is an amazing intelligence here. I feel like I need to take this a few times. And I started to take it at the weekend, and I would just work through things and think about my business. It wasn't even to do with my brother or anything like that. It would be to help me with business. I saw it as a tool. I saw it as an advantage. And unless you've taken the type of whatever I took, you won't know. But I truly believe it helps you articulate things a little bit better, and it helps you see through a different lens. And that's what happened. I took it. We had a conversation. I was looking over the rice fields, and I was just in a good state. I was relaxed. I was laughing. I took a little bit too much, and all of a sudden, he gave me a perspective. No one could tell me, like I've said, no one could tell me, listen, this is it. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to think. You can't tell someone that. It's like how I work. You have to ask them the question and let them figure it out themselves. They have to figure it out themselves to then work through things on their own, to then discover the answer. So, yeah, I think it was meant to be. Definitely, it was meant to be. Yeah.
Man, psychedelics are so incredible. I remember taking someone when I was like 18, and it really makes you break through whatever it is with just uncompromising love and just an objective view, which is oftentimes hard to get. But I remember I was just like a dickhead to my parents when I was like in these teenage years, and I was like, oh, like they're mean back to me because I'm mean to them in some sense. But if I'm loving to them, and I like remember I never like called my mom just to say hi. I would just call her to like complain when I was a fucking 16-year-old, and I was like, why don't I just call my mom to say hey? And it just like busts through it, and then the solution is always just this acceptance of it, and then responding with love, which is, I don't know, it's always, I think it's interesting when there's someone who has an image like yours, which is this fucking beast, jacked, like very, very masculine dude. But at the same time, you preach compassion, you preach love. I talked with Cosmo, one of your colleagues, and he just was revering you as this incredible leader. And like what it takes to be successful is both of those traits combined into one, and you navigate both of those things so well. And it's really cool to see, man. So it's
appreciate
really cool.
that. Yeah,
no, it's amazing. And it's just such a lost art because it is pure form of love, which is like, man, just go get hurt. Like, you just need to go get hurt and get burnt, because that's just the point of it. And at the end, like, it's like, I'll still be there to coach you ultimately.
I make mistakes all the time, though.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
I've made quite a few mistakes in the business recently, and I've said a few things that I'm not proud of, but I know that's going to happen. I just don't beat myself up as much anymore, because at that moment in time, that was who I was. And I think, you do need to look after yourself a little bit better. Before, in the past, I just beat myself up. That would be it then.
Man, and I feel like it's so hard in the digital age we are now of moving on past mistakes, because you could put a video out that is timely in that moment, but obviously you've grown for whatever reason, and then the world just latches on to this moment that you were, and it's like, hey, that was like a long time ago. Like, obviously I'm a different person, but it feels like letting go of mistakes is often one of the harder challenges that people run into. I know that I dealt with that for a while. How do you coach folks in order to let mistakes be mistakes and just remind them that, hey, you're a different person than George a year ago, or Bill 2 years ago, whatever that is?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. It's essentially, if someone keeps thinking about the past, it's only going to hold them back. It doesn't define them. It doesn't define who you are, what you've done in the past. You can try and continue to run away from it and do whatever you can to not be that individual anymore. Yeah, good, but you need to give yourself some slack. Stop being too hard on yourself, because you need to just stop letting those things define who you are. If your heart's in the right place and your intentions are good, then you don't have to worry about anything. I always go into things with, like, the outcome of something. If I go into a situation, I've said something, and my intentions and my heart was in the right place, that doesn't mean that it's going to get a good result. Not at all. Like, the impact could be dramatically different to what I would expected. And that's happened so many times. Like, I'm so direct and so upfront. It's like, poof, you've taken it. You've taken a hit. You've taken a shot. And people are like, oh, they're going to go one way or the other. So you just need to live in the moment and start to be present. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past before. You need to forget about it. That's your ego, isn't it? It's your ego. You need to kill that and shed that individual. When a guy's recently come on right now, and I just said to him, listen, you need to shed that guy. You need to break him down and just leave him be and forget about him in the past and just move on from it. Because if you don't, then it's going to haunt you. And I do struggle with people who don't talk about potentially. Let me make sure this is right here. If someone's been through something and they can't talk about it and they can't mention it, I'm saying, like, all right, so if you've been through something, we were good mates, and you couldn't tell me what you've been through, and you felt like I wouldn't understand, or I don't resonate with that. I can't understand someone. I have to fully immerse myself on, okay, you've been through this, let's hear it. I want to hear your story. I want to get to know you more. I want to understand who you are, your character, what you've been through, so I can relate with you and I can connect with you. Because I'm so open to people and so honest to my team, to people in general. If someone doesn't do the same back, or they don't have to tell me every finer detail, but I struggle to connect with them, and they're not my type of people, really, who hide things.
Yeah, honesty is so key, and in order to grow and move past the mistakes. What has been helpful for myself is is not just accepting like that whatever it is, but just welcoming it in, and then just like acknowledging, okay, cool, like you have a seat at the table, which is there's a really cool dude named Joe Hudson who talks about that mental framework. But you have a seat at the table, whatever mistake or emotion it is, and you acknowledge it, but you don't act on it. It's kind of like, okay, you're there, whatever. Like it's done is done, but reconciling it in an honest way, like you're saying, and just facing it. Like you just got to face the music. If you don't face the music, man, like the band won't play. So
Yeah.
super important. It's super key. No, I think there's other moments where folks fall into these things of loneliness, like when men are following along their passion, and they are often looking for companionship, whether that be with friends or with a woman. But how would you guide someone essentially when they get into these moments of loneliness when they're pursuing passion or pursuing purpose?
Yeah, I try and push my team, push my friends to go out there and travel to, experience some real life adventures. Yeah, I went traveling when I was 21 for 6 months, just backpacked, stopped personal training, just went cold turkey, just was like, no, you know what, I need to experience some shit. I'm never going to probably do this ever again. I was never going to do it ever again to that degree, carrying a backpack, hardly any money, staying in, what are they called now?
Just a hostel or something?
Hostels.
Yeah.
Just staying in hostels.
Yeah.
Every single time. You can't afford it. You can afford it. But that was the dream.
$7 a night. Like.
Yeah. It's great for you. It's so good. What you mentioned in there, I just think we need to start embracing some things, some challenges, and experience. Don't get that small town syndrome. Stop. Just go out there. Even if like you could save up a few £1,000, do it, and then just go traveling, and you'll be enlightened. You'll see things that your grandparents, your family have never experienced, never seen, and you're exposed to different cultures, different ways of living. Like even in Bali, like some of the living conditions that people are in, you don't see that, and you might actually wake up a little bit and start to pinch yourself to realize that you have this abundance of opportunities right at your doorstep, and you've been brought up into a family that has a lot of resources that maybe you didn't want to see because you get caught up in it.
How do you hope to be remembered?
Remembered? Wow. Just a real person. Yeah, just unapologetically me. Someone who you can count on, someone who's got your back, someone who will support you. Yeah, an individual who you'll call up maybe when you are in need. Yeah.
I think you've shown that today, which is really cool. And just want to say thank you, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
If you want, I can ask you one question, which
Yeah.
is controversial.
Yeah.
Not super controversial. It's just like a very popular thing in the media right now.
Yeah.
And want to get your authentic reaction. But what are your thoughts on Lily Phillips?
Who?
Lily Phillips.
Who's that?
Perfect.
Who's that?
So Lily Phillips is a girl who slept with 100 men in a day, and then now she's trying to sleep with 1,000 dudes.
There's two of them, isn't there?
There's two of them. Yeah.
Which one's which?
Lily, I don't know if they're doing the same thing, but I know Lily Phillips is the one who has, at least from what I've seen, the most amount of media, and Lily Phillips is...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know who she is. Yeah. I just didn't know her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a discussion about her a few times. What do I think of her?
Yeah, what do you think of her, and then what do you think of that direction of society?
I think it's gonna click on. I think this will be probably the start of it. I think there'll be a lot of it, definitely, because they make a lot of money, and people will do things for money, and it's. I understand why she's doing it and the thought process behind it, but I don't think it's good for society. No, I think it's quite sad. Yeah, if I was her dad, I would be pretty upset because you basically just, it's like you're worthless. You don't pride yourself on being, what's the word now? I don't think you respect yourself enough. No, it's pretty nasty as well. You you're lowering your standards. Yeah,
sex feels like it's a very sacred thing, and when it's kind of tossed away in the same or in this way of just, okay, hey, this is just something I'm doing for clout, for fame, for money, it becomes quite sad.
Yeah, like I've been to sex parties. I've seen that side of like this industry, but I think there's a certain level where it's just extreme, and yeah, I feel sorry for her. I do feel sorry for her, but I think this is probably the start of it. I think that type of world is only going to be unleashed now with the likes of those. To be honest, now I saw them when you click on Instagram, they keep popping up now. I saw these other like two girls like just caked full of makeup. I think they were English, and I was like, wow, how old are these girls? And it was made me feel a little bit sick, bro. So they're doing it for clout. They're doing it for money, aren't they? But they're not gonna ever have a relationship with a real man. They're gonna struggle. And I think one of them said, I heard one of the girls get asked a question: would your future husband or boyfriend have any issues with like what you do currently? And I think she said, no, he only would if he was insecure. So
that's wild.
Yeah. And then I was really like, wow, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you interested by that? Like interested in her, like the way she's
No, I mean,
coming across?
It certainly
like, why
is.
did you ask that question?
I think it's more so, one is it's something that's like contemporary, so it's quite topical, I guess. Not that it's anything that is like, I guess I'm asking because I'm also, when I saw a documentary on her doing it, because it's also was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is something that's happened. So
Yeah.
I'll click on it and I'll go and learn more. And then seeing the documentary, because I guess you're curious, is like, whoa, how does she feel? Does she enjoy doing this? Or like, what was her reaction afterwards? And then you watch it and then you see how she reacted afterwards. And it's like, you then start to feel sorrow or sympathy, at least for her, because you realize in some way her reaction is like, oh my God, she's feeling something, like forgive the pun, but she's feeling like something inside of her that doesn't feel right. And I have friends who are having kids now, and I want to be a father as well, just like you. And whether I have a boy or a girl, I hope that they take a path that is not in this direction of, I don't know if I would call it sexual exploitation, because I guess I just don't know the pure definition of this, because she's consensually doing this and then she's making a lot of money out of it. So I don't know what's being exploited here other than her values in real time. But like, seeing the state of where Western society is going is, and I remorsefully agree with what you're saying because that it's going to click on. Like it's just going to be more and more and more. But then, yeah, where would I want to raise a family? Where would I want to have kids? And then where would I find a nice partner as well? So I think it's an interesting topic. I don't know whether or not if we continue discussing it, if that's just like a good thing for it in terms of meaning it'll just be more and more, or if we're just like, okay, we ignore it. Like kind of your response of just being like, who's Lily Phillips is almost like ideal because it's like, I think the best solution is probably not paying attention to that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know what I mean? Like
I'm not paying attention to it. I see it and I know what's going on, but like,
yeah.
I can really, because it's interesting, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
interesting because
Yeah.
it must have happened. It's happened probably thousands of times, something like this, but not to that scale maybe, but we're just not aware of it. You know what I mean? We're just not aware of it. She's literally putting herself out there because she knows it works. It's marketing. She's going to be making millions off it. So the more extreme it is, the more engagement it's going to get. That's why she's doing. I heard it like 1,000 men or something in a
24
day.
hours. Yeah.
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 It's marketing. She's going to be making a lot of money off it. That's why she thinks it's absolutely fine. But you can see really like, okay, it's yet again, what has she been through? Why has she got to that point where she's doing that? Like, there must have been things happen in her life, whether she's been abused or she's been raped. There's something that's triggered that. That's not a normal response to do those types of things. There's always something to read between the lines. Definitely, man. 100% there's something gone on in the past before.
Yeah.
And I swear I heard something because again, you go down a rabbit hole, don't you? Once you've watched something, you scroll in, it's like, fuck, it's again, and then I'm like, oh my God.
It's like, also just the fucking dopamine thing. Like like porn is so fucking like it's literally the most addictive thing for any of us because it's what we're wired to do. So yeah, you click on it and you're like, oh fuck, and then like I remember clicking on it and then watching her, like I've seen her videos and but doing that being like, fuck, what am I doing? Like clicking on this and then it leads into that. And so, but knowingly like porn is so bad for you and it like puts this wrong perception of life, but it gets you there. It's a fucking crazy slippery slope. Like,
it's like,
it's bananas.
I think it's just, I think it's a culture thing, but as human beings, like, we're just intrigued by that type of thing. I think as a man as well, like there's a dirty, naughty, like grungy side that with porn and with sex, it's just, I think it's just built in us where we're just like, oh, we're fascinated by like,
what's the sluttiest thing you've done?
Seriously,
yeah, literally, it's like, yo, tell me, like, what is it? And you're like, fuck, tell me. Like, it is so intriguing. Like, I don't know what it is as a man, but then it's like when you have the post-nut clarity, you're like, fuck.
It's kind of like, for me, it's like, I don't like it, but there's something kind of like I'm fascinated by where I like it in a way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to come across wrong here. I'm like, I think it's dirty, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, what the fuck? This is weird, but I'm like, I'm fascinated by it. It's like,
let me
imagine seeing all these guys do it. I'm like picture it. You're just like, fuck.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Yet you know at the same time. Yeah. It's a, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing, and it obviously it works because she's making millions, and there's obviously men who are still lining up to go and have sex with her because they're even more intrigued by it. And then, yet we do know in many ways that like discipline, as like with everything, like fitness is the gateway drug to success. Like, and it's just pure discipline. So like if you now continuously consume this type of porn, like you may become a man that you don't want to become, or you may compromise on your values that you don't want to become. Maybe this leads to you watching porn from once a month to once a week to once a day to multiple times a day. Now you're jerking off like all the time, and then maybe you find a partner that you're okay with now that you're like desensitized to this, just having crazy sex with other dudes. Like like all these different areas, but then what comes before any of that going there is just the discipline in order to not go down that. Yet I'm saying this knowing that one of the most challenging things that I've ever had to contend with is lust, which I think is a common thing with men, but just in general is it's like yeah, lust is like, I was talking with my buddy the other day. We were jokingly saying like all of the bad decisions that I've made in life were like in pursuit of like a beautiful woman, and it's like shit, like here's where I should have learned a lesson, but it's like a thing that we have to integrate within our lives of just knowing, okay, like lust is something that's there, and you don't like fully ignore it. You again welcome it into your world, and then you learn to integrate your shadow. And I don't know if you know Carl Jung at all, but he's this psychoanalyst from Germany in the 40s, I believe. But he says that essentially all of us have a shadow within us, and it could be greed, it could be gluttony, or it could be lust. And it's not about like getting your shadow away from you. It's about how you integrate this, and so you accept that you're lustful in certain ways, and it's like, okay, like
I like that.
Yeah, how is it that I now integrate this into my life? And it's like, okay, I love having sex like every other fucking person on the planet, and so how is it that I allow just the right amount of dose into my life that I don't then start going into like these crazy rabbit holes that would be porn, that would be like dating a partner that doesn't align with my values. It's like, okay, hey, finding a proper partnership, exploring with that person, so on and so forth, and just accepting it rather than letting it go.
Yeah. I will think about one thing though about that, Lily.
Yeah.
If you've got a guy who, you got a guy who struggles to find women, or women are not attracted to him. He's having sex with this girl, he's pleasing himself, he doesn't get it ever, like he struggles to get it. There's a little bit of a different way to look at it there. Of course, it's not right for her, but for him or someone, imagine someone who's really struggled to go out there and get laid, and some of these women are like, yeah, come and have sex with me. It's kind of a different way to look at it.
Yeah, you're contending with the strongest biological drive of
Yeah.
men. Like you and girls aren't paying you mind, and then now here's an option here, and it's like, okay, it'll cost you $200, and it's like, whoa, this person who now in your mind as well is like, whoa, you've watched so much of their videos that like this person you have an emotional attachment to. Yeah. So you're like, holy shit, I could just pay $200 and I get to sleep with this girl who's now like who I view as this, or revere as this goddess of mine. Like I can go and like,
it's just like porn, but on a massive scale, isn't it, mate? Instead of, for that girl, she's probably just like thinking, she's not bothered whether it's 10 or 100 or 1,000. Same shit to her, isn't it? That's what she's thinking.
It's just the only difference is the time.
Yeah.
Usually that'd be spread out over a month for her, but now it's over like the course of a day. So it's just the only difference is the time. It's just all batched into one. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it definitely feels wrong in some way, where it's like, is this?
It's their life at the end of the day as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
If she's happy with it, if she doesn't think it's bad, then again, like, who are we to judge how someone lives their life? You know what I mean? Like, what is right and wrong? If that makes someone happy, then by all means, there's probably worse things going on in the world than that.
Yeah.
There is.
There is, man.
It's definitely not.
I think it's also, it's like, passing judgment on these things is not, it's strange, because you often hear of like these right-leaning politicians or thought leaders who will judge this type of behavior, yet it turns out that they have like the craziest like kink orgy sex parties, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, you like get pegged by like multiple women, yet you were like wagging your finger at this thing. So like, it's a crazy world of hypocrisy. And I think the solution, as I'm going through this, because it's like shit, like as we're talking through this, I'd rather come out with a path forward, but it's back to what you're saying. The point is like, be present, be like focused, be in this moment. And we live in such a global world that like whatever any person who's like making a decision like on the other side of it somehow can affect us, because we're looking at our phone and it's like, oh, it's right in front of me, and like my brain can't tell the difference between this digital device and then the proximity around me. But it's about like building local community, being around people who hold you accountable, like yourself, and yeah, just focusing on the present moment. This actually makes me think of this other thing that I was reflecting on last week, of people who are holding each other accountable. Total change of topic from Miss Lily Phillips, but basically, so
I like accountability, bro. Love it.
it's so good. But so I had a conversation with I went to the Philippines recently with Harry, my buddy of mine that I was telling you, and we went to a prison, and we went to the prison, and we were going to go interview a bunch of people, and
oh, that's cool.
it was really cool. It was really cool.
Cool.
And we didn't know who we were going to interview, because we got there and it was like, okay, there's no list of inmates because they don't have a record system. So we get there, and then the prison lord, that's not what he's called, but the head of the prison, I can't remember the name always, but
yeah,
you know who I'm talking about. The boss of the prison. So he tells us, hey, there's a inmate who killed both of his parents by cutting their heads off and boiling them. Gruesome.
Wow.
Absolutely gruesome. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I went to go have this conversation with him, and I didn't feel as nervous as I was having this conversation with you.
Okay.
And the reason, I think, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, is like, you will always reflect back the person who I need to become. So you will always be accountable towards who I will need to become, because you are exacting and you push folks to stay closest to their highest potential. Whereas he symbolized someone who would commiserate with your mistakes. So if I was to like commit the ultimate sin, which would be like killing my parents, for example, he symbolized the person to be like, oh, it's okay. Whereas your response would have been, what the fuck did you just do? Like, let's get out of that hole. And so, yeah, I thought it was just like an interesting observation. I was like, damn, like on paper, like this guy's a killer, but yeah, I guess you're a killer of past selves, but it was an interesting thing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
yeah, I just hold people accountable. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scary in a lot of ways to people, because they know, that's why people want to work with me as well. It's because they know I'm gonna get the best out of them. They could work with another coach, but they know deep down it's not gonna get the best result. So yeah, and I think for me anyway, not even for me, I think ultra successful people want people who hold them accountable, because 99% of the time, no one tells them the truth. So they need that. They see it as a rare thing.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, they're like, finally, if someone tells me the truth and someone like holds me accountable, I'm like, thank God. Like I really appreciate it, because it's difficult when you're a leader. You don't really get it often. You don't really get people calling you out. I want people to call me out. I think people think like it's the opposite. Like I love people like saying I can do better, or I could have done this, I could have done that. It's everything for me to have those people around me. So yeah, I get it. But don't get me wrong, like I fuck up all the time. So like, it's not like I'm like, oh, you're a piece of shit. I don't really.
Yeah, you're not sitting from an ivory tower.
No, I pull people up. I don't look down. There's a difference. There's people who excel and they become somewhat successful in an area of life. There's a point in time where they can end up going one way or the other. Or they look down. They say, "You're not good enough. You need to be better. You need to do this." I'm like, "Let's do this. Let's pull up." There's a big difference. That's why when you get people who are successful, you can sometimes see them looking down on an individual. But I'm more like, okay, you fucked up, man. What are we gonna do about it? Let's go. Come on, let's do this shit. Let's kill it. Let's crush it. I know who you can be. There's a big difference. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And it's so much more in team building, and it just speaks to the success of Physique Academy completely. Because if you were looking down on people, no one would join your team. No one would want to be a part of your org. And on that last thought, is I think ultimately is that reminded me of the question of essentially people self-sabotaging themselves. I think many folks, myself including at some point, was like afraid of stepping in these giant shoes of like the highest version of myself. That's where I kind of associated those two things. Is it's like you're essentially demanding with proper techniques of compassion and guidance that people become their greatest version, which can be intimidating to some. But then once you get to that point, like you're saying, is now you crave that. Like you look for the people who will say like, "Hey George, like why'd you do this?" or blah 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 blah. So it's a pretty epic place to get to.
Yeah, man, you're being vulnerable, aren't you? Like you're pushing yourself to that point. You will fuck up. You will make mistakes. You're gonna be exposed. You're putting yourself out there. I think the people who don't put themselves out there have the biggest egos because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to look bad. So someone might look at me with the way I am sometimes and think I've got a big ego. It's actually the opposite. The people who are behind the desk on the computer screen, they're the ones with the biggest egos. We get it all the time because I put ads out quite a lot. And I'll get people just comment, just saying the stupidest things. And sometimes I'll just comment and start to just answer back and just give them a bit of shit, really. Just say, "Oh, yeah, good one, bro." And start to look at the pictures and be like, "You got a picture of a cat, mate. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm the one actually putting myself out there. I'm helping people." So a lot of the time I won't ignore them because I know it's coming from a place of
hurt or whatever.
Yeah. But sometimes I'm just like, "Yeah, fuck you." Like, I just go at them and I just tell them because why not? Like sometimes a lot of people are like, "You shouldn't ever reply to haters or anything like that because that means they've got you." I'm like, they've not got me. I just want to teach them a lesson. I just want to say, "Listen, bro, you're the one who's..." A guy commented, literally, oh my God, he commented today and it clicked on his profile and it said, "Lego collector, love playing Lego with my kids." All these pictures were just Lego. And I was just like, and it was a post of me. It said like the hours in the day of what you've got. And it was like work, sleep, 7 hours training in the week, and then other. And he just commented that, trying to give me some shit, saying other people have a life outside of this. And I was just like, what are you on about?
Yeah, come on.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it clearly affected you in a way because you're playing Lego all day.
It's weird because it really is. Again, I think you symbolically represent by someone who is uncompromising in order for people to grow into this greater self, which is awesome. It's so needed, and like it's very refreshing. But also, people will see it as a threat, which I think is probably how he perceived this. Is here you have a day that is pushing you and challenging you, and he saw that as like, "Oh fuck, why am I not doing that?"
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this time we've got a red light over there in the corner, so this is it, man.
Thanks, bro.
Epic, bro.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, George.
Appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
This is awesome, man.
That was great.
Fuck, that was good, man. Yeah, that was really fun.